job by our guys in the midday. They celebrated opening day eve live from MLB Network. Now, for Met fans, it's not really opening day eve because there's a really good chance that tomorrow's Met game is going to be rained out. Keep it right here. As soon as we get information from the Mets on what their plan is for tomorrow and subsequently Friday, we will let you know. Obviously, the forecast is not very good, but I've got good news. There's a dome in Houston. So the New York Yankees are 1,000% opening their season tomorrow against the Houston Astros. They made a trade acquisition earlier today that made me very excited as a Met fan because you took a Met killer away from the Marlins and you got yourself a good little ball player in John Birdie. More on that later. Jordan Montgomery is not a Met or Yankee. More on that later. A very special surprise appearance from Bad Tiki on a Wednesday. He changed his schedule around because the Yankees are playing tomorrow. So Bad Tiki will join us coming up at 4:30. And I promise you, right at 5:50 today, the way we are going to celebrate opening day eve is with what we call the John Sterling Grand Finale. What is the John Sterling Grand Finale? You've never, ever heard it before. It's unique to radio, and you will hear it at 5:50 today. And you'll either love it or you're going to write angry letters to Spike Eskin. There's no in between. With that said, hi, Tiki.
Hey, what's up?
Did you hear Saquon Barkley decided to respond to you?
I did. He was really talking about his transition to Philadelphia.
Transition.
I got thrown in there a little bit, but it's all good.
Yeah, he talked about a lot of other things, but he was on the New Heights podcast with the Kelce brothers. And out of fairness to the audience, out of fairness to Saquon Barkley, we're going to give him the open floor to listen to what he had to say in response to what Tiki said a few weeks ago. If you're new around here, we were having a conversation prior to Barkley leaving the Giants for the Eagles, in which Tiki did a great job representing Giant fans by saying, hey, you can go there, but if you go there, understand what comes with it, you're dead to me. That obviously took on a life of its own. Saquon Barkley wasn't happy on social media. But now, with a few weeks kind of gone by, him truly now being a Philadelphian, he sat down with the Kelces, and he explained some thoughts. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to listen to what Saquon had to say. We will pause it every once in a while so Tiki can respond, I can respond to what Saquon said, but no editing. Just full Saquon Barkley, we respond. So ladies and gentlemen, from the New Heights podcast down in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, here he is, former Giant. He's dead to us, Saquon Barkley.
That was my big thing with, Tiki. That was my thing with Tiki. It was like what he said was like, you're an ex running back. Like you're an ex NFL player. Like I get fans being upset about me going to Philly. Like obviously they don't get the business side of it. Like they're trying to really make it seem like it was me. I picked the Giants over Philly, which
like out of spite almost. Like, it's like, come on.
I didn't have first of all, the Giants didn't even offer me. Like they didn't. Like, it wasn't my option. I had 4 teams, but, the Giants weren't my option.
Yeah, that's wild.
But Tiki, you used that moment to, it wasn't even what he said, because he was like, chung the cheek, or whatever he said.
Yeah, he's trying to be funny.
It was a week. It was a week leading up to that, before when it first came out that the Eagles and I had interest, and he's like, you're going to be dead to this fan base. You're going to do this. You're going to do that. It's like, I love seeing NFL guys. I love seeing OGs. I love seeing you guys. You have a platform, and, this is a place where, you ball. You can talk. You can educate fans. It's like, maybe use that time to show. Maybe this is why Saquon is going to Philly.
All right, time out. You did that. You said it. I understand you're going to go for the most money. You're allowed to do it. If you do it, you get the money, and that's great and good for you. Take care of your family. But the repercussions are dead to Giant fans. Am I wrong?
Yeah. And so, look, to educate the listener, not that they need educating, because I think that most football fans are very aware of the lack of loyalty in the National Football League. We see this every season. Hell, Tom Brady won multiple championships with the New England Patriots, and at the end, Robert Kraft and Bill Belichick didn't want him, right? This is a guy who's first ballot Hall of Famer. He got kicked out the door to go someplace else and win another championship in Tampa. So we understand the business of the game. And I think what Saquon is wanting me to do is be somebody that I was 10 years ago. I mean, I've been retired for 17 seasons. I am so much more a media member now, both covering games and being an opinion generator on this station than I was a football player. I mean, it was a generation ago almost. I mean, literally, there are kids that were born my last year that are now going to college, right? So I get what he's saying, but I also have to react as Giant fans react, or how I genuinely feel when Saquon left us and went to the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, it is a business. We know that in football, it's constantly evolving, especially with skill position players. The running back, unfortunately, has become, let's call him the odd man out. It's not necessarily fair, but it is the trend where the league is going, right? We saw this, probably the first inklings of this, were when you started seeing quarterbacks in the shotgun all the time. So all of a sudden, you go from lining up with a fullback, a running back, as we used to always say, dotting the I, getting downhill, being tough as hell, 6'2", or 210, 20 pounds, getting 3 yards in a cloud of dust too. Yeah, that's really an inefficient play. Let's put the quarterback in the shotgun so he has more time to throw the football, and let's find ways to get our skill position players the ball in space, not running between the tackles, but the ball in space. That's when it started, right? That's when the running back started to become less important to offenses, and it just snowballed over and over and over and over and over again. So to Saquon talking about the money side of it, go get as much money as you can, right? Football is short-lived. You can do it for a decade maybe, and then you have 50 more years to live, hopefully, if you live to your 80 years old. You have a lot of life, so go make as much money as you can. But fandom is real. I think that's what he and some current athletes miss. Fandom is the layman. It's the construction worker. It's the guy who has the 9 to 5 who's, one or two moments of joy is rooting for his team or his favorite player on a Sunday. And when that guy leaves you, there is an emotion.
Especially when they leave
there.
you to go to a rival.
Exactly.
The guy who disgusts me the most in this, and we'll continue playing the audio, is that phony Jason Kelce, who I've said forever is a phony. Because Jason Kelce, look, Travis Kelce lives on another planet. Who gives a damn? Good for him. He's on another planet. Saquon Barkley, I'm not sure he gets it either. But Jason Kelce pretends. He walked around Philadelphia like he's the common man. He walked around Philadelphia like, I get you. I understand you. Remember when you used to take shots at Ben Simmons just to appeal to everybody in Philadelphia? He tried to pretend like he's a common man. He takes his shirt off. He shows his big fat belly. He's the common man. And then Jason Kelce sits there on his high horse in his podcast and is like, oh, yeah, Tiki's trying to be funny. No, he's actually doing what you pretend to do. He's saying, hey, to Giant fans, you're dead to us. You would know. You're the guy who's walked around Philly for a decade pretending to be Joe Philly. He's the guy that pisses me off the most because he's the guy you should say, I get Tiki. I understand Tiki.
Yeah, but you
just proved you're the phony I always knew you were.
But it's not trendy to defend the fan.
Of course not.
Or the person.
Only when it's convenient for him, when he's kowtowing to the people of Philadelphia.
Or to defend the person representing the fan.
Right.
Because it's easy to look at the fan and say, you can't relate. And by the way, I've been saying this for decades. That especially the NBA player is unrelatable to the fan. The amount of money, guaranteed money, that they make puts them in CEO territory, and the money they make over the course of their careers. The NFL player is starting to trend that way.
Right.
When you have quarterbacks making $50 million and wide receivers making $30 million, and this isn't in my day we did it for the love of the game. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm just saying that when you can't see that a decision that you make affects someone's fandom, regardless of the reason. Mm-hmm. The reason doesn't matter, right? The decision you make affects a fan in a way that emotionally charges them, right? It lifts them. And I just responded to that, right? And not in a malicious way, because, by the way, I love Saquon. I think he's an unbelievable player. I think he's going to be a pain in our ass for the next 3 or 4 years or whatever it is in Philly. And it's one of the reasons that Giant fans are so upset about it.
Of course.
Right? And so, I mean, he even said it in this clip. I mean, we didn't play it because it was before this. But if he hadn't done anything in New York, if he was just like, he was a bust, he goes to Philly, we'd be like, yeah, good riddance, man. Who cares? But the fact that he was good, that he was one of the top players over the last decade that the Giants have had, it really hurts us.
No doubt. In fact, this is actually, we're going to continue listening to Saquon Barkley. I think he's about to get into that. So here's more from Saquon with that phony Jason Kelce and the on the other planet, Travis Kelce.
Maybe this is why Saquon is going to Philly. Or maybe this is why he's going to use the business side of it. Use that to show. It's like I'm not saying you got to have loyalty to me because I don't care for that, to be honest. But like, you are ex-NFL player, you are ex-NFL athlete. It's like, don't feed into the BS.
Okay,
it's like, let fans do that.
Stop it right there. Like, what is the BS? Feed into what BS?
That we're mad. We're not allowed to be mad.
That's
what he's saying. We're not allowed to be mad.
That's the part that I don't really understand what he's getting at. I am an ex-NFL player. I completely get it. But when I was playing, we hated the Eagles, right? I respect Ike Reese and Jeremiah Trotter and Brian Dawkins and those guys. And now that I'm many, many years removed from playing, we can get together and look back at those days and talk about the battles that we went through. But in real time, I hated those dudes, man. They bothered me. I hated going to Philly. I hated the interaction with the fans. They would cuss and yell and everything at me. Like, that's real. So when he says, oh, I'm old school, well, I'm just speaking it like I lived it.
Yes.
Now, maybe it's all buddy-buddy in today's NFL. Like, oh, I know you. Hey, we hung out at somewhere else. Yeah, you're cool. I saw you on Instagram. Yeah, I followed you. You did this and then that. And I got you on my podcast and blah, blah, blah. We're cool. That wasn't the world I lived in. So to throw it back and be like, oh, yeah, man, he's an old head. He should know better. And in my day, it was different.
No, I get you.
It was different. And I get his day. And again, I'm not knocking. I'm just saying it's different. Like the fact that I should have educated people why he went to Philly. We all know why he went to Philly.
We all know that. We all acknowledge that. We all acknowledge that. Look, and we've had a lot of discussions on the Giant decision, right or wrong, what they should have done, if they should have offered him money.
Part of this is on the Giants.
Of course it is.
Actually, more of it is on the Giants.
Look, they didn't want him back.
And we identified that pretty early on.
It's pretty straightforward. Like, you can go to Philadelphia, just like Pete Alonso could go to Atlanta or Philadelphia. Just like Juan Soto can leave and goes wherever he wants. But understand, where you go matters. And how you're going to be treated by your former fans will differ based on where you go. And if you don't care, that's fine.
Right. I got to look. So I call games for CBS, and I try to analyze and I try to look at things. Oh, this is why this happened. Oh, this guard missed this block, or he's supposed to do X, Y, Z, and this is why this play worked or didn't work. But I need to, because it's just me, call games as a fan would. Right? Get excited at the moments that a fan would. Understand from the perspective of the listener, right? Not the national audience that is agnostic to this game, but the listener in, say, Detroit, or the listener in Baltimore, or the listener in New York. If I'm not calling a game from that listener's perspective, I'm not doing my job. Right? I'm taking this holier than thou 30,000-foot view of the game and saying, I know better than you. I can call this from on high. I can call this from the tower. And it's not relatable to me. When I listen to broadcasters that give this like very benign, non-emotional call, I'd rather listen to the radio. You know what I mean? I'd rather listen to the local like emotional reaction, because that's what sport is. If you take emotion out of sport and you're just going through the motions, like, what the hell is the point?
Right.
I mean, I'm serious. Like, I think about all the reasons that got me into football, and that's my brother and my friends, and then the rivalries that developed when I was at UVA, and the rivalries that persisted all my decade when I was in the NFL. Like now that I'm on this side, I would be fake if I didn't express it the way that I feel it. And that's so take a knock at me if you want, because I want to be a fan. But if you're going to say my biggest crime is being a fan, then I guess I'm doing my job really well.
Yes, guilty as charged. Here's more from Saquon.
Maybe this is why Saquon is going to Philly. Or maybe this is why he's going to use the business side of it. Use that to show. It's like I'm not saying you got to have loyalty to me, because I don't care for that, to be honest. But like, you are ex-NFL player. You are ex-NFL athlete. It's like, don't feed into the BS. It's like, let fans do that. Like, they're supposed to do it. They're emotional. Honestly, if fans wouldn't be mad that I went from New York to Philly. That means I did nothing when I was in New York, whether it was on the field or off the field.
Look, that is true. Mm-hmm. If you are a journeyman player, if you didn't contribute all that much for a team, we're not going to care when you go to a rival. Saquon Barkley was a very good Giant. He's not an all-time great Giant, but he was a good Giant. But when you go somewhere that's a rival, you open up the fact that we're going to be mad.
Yeah.
That we're going to be angry that you went there.
Right. It doesn't mean that we didn't love him when he was here.
No, and look, and the one thing I do appreciate from Saquon, is Saquon Barkley understood something that a lot of people in the media did not when this story came out. And that's the fact that you brought this up before he left. Mm-hmm. That this was a thing we talked about days before he left. It was a warning before it was an emotional reaction. And the warning was, yeah, the Eagles are interested. Yeah, the Texans are interested. And you can go to Philly because clearly the Giants aren't that hot for you. And clearly the Eagles may offer you the most money. And you absolutely have that right to make that decision. But there are ramifications for it. And if you don't care about it, if you don't care about Giant fans being angry, if you don't care, then go. Then it doesn't matter. Some athletes care. Some athletes care about their legacy. I've used Alonso as an example.
Yeah.
Like, Pete Alonso is not the greatest Met of all time. He has a chance to be. If he leaves, and I think DeGrom is very similar, if he leaves, Pete, whether it's the Mets' fault or his fault, and he goes to the Angels, right? And he has some good years in Anaheim, there's a chance Pete can come back to Citi Field 20 years from now and be celebrated. Mm-hmm. But if Pete Alonso signs with the Phillies, watch this, he's going to be dead to us.
Right.
Same thing with DeGrom. Like, this is a thing.
Yeah.
And so Saquon had every right to go to Philly. I get why he did it, the money, the chance to win, all that. But it's going to cause that kind of anger, and you represented what the majority, not all, but what the majority of Giant fans felt in that moment.
Well, I think one of the things that it's hard in today's sports sphere to think about legacy, like to think about what it means to a fan base, or to think about how people are going to remember you when it's all said and done. And especially in New York, where this, once a Giant, always a Giant has always been a mantra, but the all-time, only were Giants, those guys are revered.
Yes.
Right? And maybe it's different in other parts of the country, different teams. I'm sure for the Chargers means nothing because they're new there, but just think of another, like the Arizona Cardinals. Is it big to be an all-time, player and stage your whole career like Larry Fitzgerald there? I'm sure. But it pales to what it means in a place like New York with the New York Giants.
No doubt.
And so that means something. And taking that into consideration is something that I did, that Michael Strahan did when he was a free agent, that Amani Toomer did, I'm sure, when he was a free agent, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. The guys that you can talk about. And unfortunately, Saquon's not in that world anymore. Again, it's not his fault because the Giants clearly were done with him. The Giants wanted to move on, and that was obvious, despite offering that same contract a year before. But after last season, they were ready to move on, and that just is what it is. And it sucks for him because he had a chance to be one of those guys, and he wanted to be one of those guys. It just wasn't afforded to him.
Let's go to Randy in Brooklyn. What's up, Randy?
Hey, first of all, Tiki, you're spot on. You guys got to make your money. Your contracts that they give, the 4 years, the 5 years, it's just ridiculous what these NFL players are making in the beginning and then their own. But I have to say about your partner there, you're such a crybaby. If you don't like what's going on, you're saying they're dead. The Giants didn't want to pay him. They didn't want to pay OBJ. And if Alonso leaves and goes to Philly and gets his money,
hold on, they did
he's
pay
not
OBJ.
going to be dead to us.
But they did pay OBJ. That's the only reason they were able to trade him. Because nobody else was going to give him the deal that he needed or wanted.
Randy, we agree at the same time, but you're not listening. You're not listening very carefully. No, hold on.
I'm listening.
Hold on.
Wait. I'm listening because I'm going to lose you. I'm going through Rockaway.
Oh, okay.
I'm listening carefully.
Fair enough.
If Alonso leaves,
yes.
If Alonso leaves next year, how could we say as a Met fan he's dead to us if the Mets didn't want to pay him?
I'm going to explain it. I want to explain it, Randy. If he goes because the Mets don't pay him, we will be angry at the New York Mets. No question about it. I will be
100%.
angry at the New York Mets. I will scream about the New York Mets. But if he goes to Philadelphia, what are we going to do when he walks back into our building on April 20th, 2025? We're going to give him a round of applause, or are we going to look at him as the enemy that he is? What's going to happen, Randy?
But this is the same enemy when he won the home run derby that he donated his $1 million
No, we
to
love
the New
Pete.
York Fire
But
Department.
Randy, he's an awesome dude.
Yeah.
I love Pete Alonso. He's a charitable guy. He's an awesome guy. Remember the difference between sports and real life. You can dislike someone on the field and say they're awesome as a human.
Right.
There are so many Yankees I think that about. You know how I couldn't stand Mariano Rivera? I couldn't stand that guy?
Yeah.
I'm aware that Mariano's a dude.
Right.
Like, understand the difference. Dead to me shouldn't be taken the way you're taking it, the way Saquon took it. It's from a sports perspective.
And I think that's the biggest thing that you can come out of this. When the things that we talk about, the things that we say on this station, the things that fans say in stadiums and arenas and ballparks, etc., all of that is not personal. It has nothing to do with me as the athlete versus me as the person, or Saquon as the athlete versus Saquon the person. Those things don't matter.
No.
And it gets really easy, especially when you're an athlete and you hear a sports criticism, and the first thing you do is say, they are attacking me personally. And that's wrong, right? Because how can they? They don't actually know you personally.
Right.
They're only attacking this persona, this character that you play on the stage, right? This world is a stage, and we're all just actors, right? We're all just characters in it. Sports is so much more that.
Right.
You're literally on a stage.
Absolutely.
Right? And you are a character in this drama that's happening real time in sports. And so when we talk about you, Saquon, or Tom Brady, or Pat Mahomes, or Lamar Jackson, or whoever the heck it may be, we're talking about that guy. Now, if you want to go get in trouble and do some dumb stuff off the field, we will talk about you personally.
Of course.
You go do that, we will also incorporate that. But for the most part, all we care about is you as the player.
Yeah, and I want to dumb it down then for Randy and anybody else, because he brought up the specificity of Pete Alonso.
Mm-hmm.
Here's the dumbing it down of dead to me in a sports world. And let's take out the psychos that are going to threaten families. That's not something I would do or any sane person would do.
By the way, some stupid people do that.
Yeah, and they're idiots. Okay? They're schmucks. And that's not who I am, and that's not who you are. That's not even who Loogie is. Or Sean. We're not like that. And then, obviously, those people are idiots. But from a sports dumbing down perspective, let me explain it this way. The Mets didn't want Jacob deGrom back, right? I was angry at the Mets for that decision. He went to Texas. No issue with that. My son still wears a deGrom jersey. I still love Jacob deGrom. Quote, he's not dead to us. If he went to Atlanta, again, he did the same thing, right? Same decision, took the money. Mets didn't want him back. I wouldn't let my freaking kid wear his jersey, nor would I wear his jersey. And that's all I think we mean when we're having the fun of fans when we say dead to us. Not if I see him on the street, I'm going to spit on him. I mean, that's not what we're talking about. It's the fandom of it.
Yeah.
It's the idea that when a guy walks back into your stadium, you give him a standing ovation, which happens sometimes for guys when they're gone. But sometimes if they go to the wrong team, they're not getting that.
Right. At least not in the short term.
No, not in the short term. We'll get to your calls next, 877-337-6666.